Welcome, welcome, welcome. Today we're building views. That's it. We're going to talk about how to build a view, what to think about, and the different types of views that you can build. So we'll be taking our sweet time today and talking about, best practices, how to build a view, what are the different steps and things to consider, what are the different types of views that we can build. And so we just want to step right into a workshop so that we can see how this is done. So that's what we'll be doing today. And so I'm going to share my desktop and we are going to get started. Okay, so here's my Stratum environment. My homepage is a Power BI report. I built that using our Power BI connector. So if you want some stuff that looks like that, you can snap on Power BI to Stratum and get started. If you want to learn more about that, let me know, and I'll tell you how you can potentially use that so you can do some cool things like looking at your Stratum data through the eyes of some of these visuals that Power BI provides. But before we do any of this Power BI business, we have to build some views, because that's what Power BI uses. It taps into the views so I can easily just suck the data into the Power BI dashboard and build some incredible dashboards that look like this. So how do I build a view? Who can build a view? First of all, not anyone can just build a view from scratch. So that's something that typically is reserved for security administrators and view administrators. For instance, I can come up to one of my view groups and I can right click and select new view, and it will just step me into the new view. If you don't see that on the right click on one of those view groups, then you're not a view administrator. But that's okay. What you can do is you can take an existing view and you can wipe out everything in it and start from scratch. So that's something that you can do, and then save it as your own personal view. Right. So there's always a way, right, to get what you want typically in the world of IT. So if I were to do that, I could then go in. It doesn't really matter what view you pick if you're going to whack everything. But if you do have something that, for instance, that you could use in the view, then, you might pick a view that has 60, 70, 80% of what you need in it. And will save you some work. For instance, I know I have a view out here and maybe I want to build a simple this year versus last view. Well, this view would suffice. This is something that I can use right off the get-go. I can open up the view. So I run the view. I can then go into my view explorer and I can get rid of these columns very quickly, or the unwanted columns. For instance, if I just wanted to get rid of, I'll highlight the columns that I want to get rid of, and then I'll keep the ones that I want to keep there unselected. So when I highlight those and I click on my little X up here, it'll actually get rid of them. And that's exactly what I wanted. So very quickly, I was able to take a view from the library of views that are already there for me and get what I need out of it, right? Now, I may not have all the dimensions that I want, but that's a remedy. That's something I can remedy very quickly. I can come in, maybe rearrange, maybe I want this to start at the company level and then to go to the division. So now I'm ordering the path, right? So this is going to be the path that I will use, or if I'm going to share this view, other users are going to use this pathway as well. So as I reasonably, and so you want to make the path, you think about it, right? You want it to, in this case, I want it to start at an aggregate level of company, and it's logically going down to my division. I'm not stepping people right into product. If I were to do that, it's just going to throw a bunch of data at the users. You don't want to really do that from the get-go, although you could. This will allow you to order these dimensions so that they make sense, so that the drill downs make sense, right? But Stratum always lends itself nicely to allowing the user to drill to whatever dimension that they want to. adding more here or adding more over here by right clicking and editing my rows, it's the same. I can do the same thing, right? So, some of this is redundant. So just so you know, you can add a dimension this way, or you can go in and add it using your View Explorer. Doesn't really matter, whatever you feel comfortable with, right? So here, again, I can then do a save as, and then save this away as a personal or a shared view. If I plan on sharing it, I can save it as a global view because I'm special. Not really, no, but I am a security administrator, so that does allow me to do that, right? So that's, make your selections there. Obviously, I'm the owner. I'm the one that built the original view. And then down here is where you're going to save it. What view groups, right? What on the left frame menu, where do you want this view to live? And yes, it can belong to more than one view group. So you can put it in more than just one if you wanted to. Push it out to more people that way. And then I save that away, right? And that becomes my view. So that's an example where I took a view and I used my View Explorer technique, because I'm able to highlight these and very quickly get rid of them by using that technique there. And that's a very quick and easy way to get what you want in terms of a view. Now, if you're building it from scratch and you are a view administrator and you have the ability to build a view from scratch, then what do we do? Well, the concepts are basically the same, right? I can come in here and I can use these plus signs to get what I want, right? But eventually I'm going to have to right click and get my measures in here because this thing's brand new, it's right. So there's absolutely nothing in this view. So how do we do it? Well, if you just right click anywhere in the view, you can add your measures, and you can edit your rows and columns. So that's one way to do it. If I edit my rows, it's going to ask me what dimensions do I want to put in my rows, essentially. And then I get my dimension screen up here, in which I can then select or review the dimensions that are available to me. If I want to type in customer, then I can actually type that in and get all the dimensions that have the word customer in it. Then I can make my selections. So I just double clicked on customer sold to, and it came down to my selected area. If I wanted product related dimensions, then I can select my product brand, my product. And as you can see, I'm building my dimension list, division, just by simply typing in the dimensions that I want here. When I'm done selecting my dimensions, I click OK, and it returns all the sold tos immediately, but that's okay. I didn't have to click OK. I could then I could have continued building. Nevertheless, I do now need to get my measure items, and I can pursue this by just again right clicking anywhere on the view screen and adding in a regular or a calculated measure. Well, we don't have anything to calculate yet, so let's go grab some regular measures. And the concept is the same. If I'm looking for a specific keyword, I can type that in and then I can select the different measures that I want. And yes, you can add in more than one. So you want to be smart, work smarter and faster. So in this case, I'm adding in sales and amount and sales units. I need to, in this case, select my time unit, which will be months, and then my year, right? So if I want current year, and let's say I'm building a year-to-date columns for my dollars and my units. So my year-to-date is going to be current year January to current year, current month. And then I can go ahead and click OK. So now those are added in. So the view is already starting to take a nice shape and form here, where I can then add those in as needed. If I want to then add in a calculation, for instance, maybe an average sell price, then I can right click and add in a calculation. So here I can add in my calculation that then brings in my calculated menu. And then I can drag and drop that over here if I want to see in the background the view. I can expand my measures to select the measures that I want to use in my calculation. and I'm going to do some quick math. I'm going to sales over units, and I'm going to make that a formatted dollar with 2 decimal spots, and we're going to call this ASP, average sell price. I'm going to click OK to that, and here's my average sell price column. So that worked out great. And now I can sort on that column to see where I'm some of the customers that are receiving some of the higher average sell prices. So, and then I can drill that down to the brand levels, and then my sort stays alive. Home cooking is one of my higher ASP'd items. Isn't that great? So you know, who's not buying home cooking? So now I've got home cooking, and then I can do, wow, I can see that I'm only selling it to 28 customers. So I need to sell home cooking because it's got a nice ASP across the board there, doesn't it? So those are the types of things you can do when you start building the view, right? Is this type of analysis then becomes available for your view so that you can build and start doing this type of exploring, you know, explore where higher impact items, higher margin items, higher priced items. Obviously, you want to, you know, make sure that you're getting that same opportunity elsewhere. So I'm able to see that pretty easily, pretty quickly. So that's building a new view from scratch. I can then do, again, the save as, save it away. I can also click on my favorite button, and it will then show up in my favorites area here in my left frame menu. Right. So, you know, building a view is simple. You know, it's not something that's too drastically hard to do. Again, you want to think about your drill downs. What levels do you want to include in your drill down? For instance, if I'm analyzing sales and I want to add in some levels, am I going to add in, you know, prior page number? You know, no, I'm not, because it's not, that's not going to yield any data. As a matter of fact, if I drill to it, it's going to do nothing. Have you done this before, where you've added a level and it yielded nothing? Well, that's exactly what happened to me here, because prior page number is not populated for sales data. It's used for web analytics. So this is a dimension that is not used generally for sales. Now, why did this happen? Well, I mean, my demo is wide open. So, but for you guys, you can hide some of these dimensions so that they're not visible to certain users. And you can globally hide them as well. So if you're not using dimensions at a global level, then hide them, because otherwise the user may select it and get confused. So again, it's just common practice for you to just get rid of those dimensions so that the users aren't selecting them in the first place. Okay. So building a view using time range, that's one way of, you know, building a view from scratch. If I wanted to build a view using time as a dimension, how would I do that? Well, again, I would start from just using a view from scratch here. I can then switch the view. There's actually a view mode called time range. And if I go to my measure in my View Explorer, if it's not open, you can always open it by hitting the View Explorer button there. And if I do a properties, right click on measure items and I check properties, I can see that time range by default is already turned on. So our first thing we need to do is turn it off. Okay, so that, let's say, okay, I don't want to use time range. I want to use time as a dimension. I want to be able to drill on it. I want to be able to do some quick trending analysis. So now I'm going to use time as a dimension. What does that mean? Well, that means I can actually go into my rows and I can select time. Now becomes a drillable dimension. So if I select my year, months, and then you know, then my days or my weeks, and I can drill from months to weeks. So now I'm picking dimensions that are going to help me, you know, see the data at these different time levels. So that's on my rows, and then on my column, I can select a division, or I can select company if I want to see company wide, or whatever it is that you want to see, you'll select the necessary column dimension, if you will. Down here in my measures, I'm going to add in my sales data or my inventory data, whatever it is you're trying to trend out. I'm going to add in sales, and I'm going to run this. So now here's my first take at this view. Looks pretty dang good. I can see now 14, 15, 16, and 17. My database is a little old, obviously. Now I'm going to filter out that not mapped. I don't really want that. So I'm going to select it there, and then don't worry, I can do a reverse on that. So not mapped, we want to exclude that. Wow, did you know you can do that? So now you can highlight and filter something, and then you can either include that something or exclude it, which is what I just did. Now, if you don't have that option, it's in an upgraded version of the product. So make sure you upgrade so you can take advantage of some of these new features that we put in, such as this very cool exclusion option that allows me to get rid of that not mapped, ugly looking year that I don't want to see. You may not have that problem, but in demo data, we kind of throw data around a little bit. So what does this allow me to do? Well, I can now drill on time. If I want to see 2017 and how that's trended out by month, check it out. I can see my food division and my grocery division, and I can see their overall trend style for the year, right? And that goes all the way up to September because that's my current year. And if I were to drill back and go into 16, well, then we'll see a full year of data. Maybe if I want to see all the years, I can then do that, and I can drill in on all the years, and I can see them subtotaled out like that. I could put the year over here and the months on the rows. I can do all kinds of things. So yes, there's different ways that you can portray time. If I also got my weeks and my weeks under my months, so that allows me to drill in on January, and I can see the weeks under January and how the data looks. Obviously, week 4 was a big week for both divisions. If I want to see February's weeks, I can then drill in on the actual February month and see my weeks under that. So, the ability of building a view and having it, trend out your data, make sure, it's much easier and faster sometimes if you just use time as a dimension. And just, as you can see, you can just let the data kind of spread naturally across the, the weeks, the months, et cetera, because that's how that works. Now, I'm going to go grab months, because we do have months, but these months are attached to the year, so I can't really separate that. So that's why we separate them for you. So we have a separate months dimension. Now you're asking yourself, why would I do that? Because I can get jiggy with this, and I can I just want to show you how I can look at. I mean, right away you can see what you can do here with weeks, but I'm just going to put in my months up there now. And you can do so you can have the data look like this, right? So instead of drilling in on the year, I can already have the year and the months shown like this. And so these are on separate axes, so you can see that how the company looks at a global level for all years of history. It's really cool. And then if I wanted to drill in and go to, and I'll bring my months down here, right? So now I've got or I'm sorry, my week should be there, right? So then if I want to go in and see the weeks for all of the years, I've got that available as well. Somehow or another, 2016 has 6 weeks in January. I don't know how that works. Nevertheless, so you can, as you can see, you can drill in and see, the weeks or the days. If you have daily data, you can then most certainly drill in down to the daily level as well. If I wanted to filter this data on certain things, I can bring my, like for instance, I can bring division up here to my view filter, and then I can do a filter on it. Maybe I want to see just food service for the time being. So now the data is just representing the food service because I've got the food service filter there in my view filter. So, great way to filter the data based on the view filter that you have there. Okay. So that's an example of building a view with using time as a dimension. And again, you're going to want to, come to your measure folder, and then you'll see the time range option there, and you're going to want to turn that off and make sure that that's turned off, so that then your time dimensions become available for selections. So, but yeah, I mean, you can, as you can see, you can spread time, and you can get really flexible with how you present the time as a dimension, and start, trend lining your views and your data quicker and easier. Because otherwise, I'd have to build out a column for each month, and I'm telling you, with using time range, that would get pretty busy, and it would take a much longer time to do that. So. Okay, so whether you start from scratch, or whether you build a view from an existing view, as you can see, you've got the ability to go in and either way, you can get what you want and build the views that you need out of Stratum.